welcome all of you who came back. In this panel, we are going to talk about No Child Left Behind and how it was not implemented correctly. So No Child Left Behind was back in 2001, it became a law, and for many years, between $40 and $60 billion, extra dollars, was put to No Child Left Behind to be implemented through Reading First, which was what was happening across the nation in schools. And No Child Left Behind has had mixed results. The goal was to get to 90% reading proficiency from our 30-something. And if you listened to my talk before, you'll know that we didn't get there. And some states had some gains. Some states actually went backwards. There was a lot of things with assessment and testing and all of those types of things in No Child Left Behind. So we're going to get started and have our panel introduce themselves. And then we're going to watch a short video to kind of get the conversation started. So Lauren.
Hi, my name is Lauren Lucas. I'm a special education teacher and department chair in Dorchester District 4, which is in a tiny town of St. George in South Carolina. This is my 21st year teaching, and I have taught the majority of my career in special education.
Okay, Lindsay.
All right, I am Lindsay Belcher. I'm a software engineering manager at Western Governors University. I have been there for 13 years. Surprised myself. Mainly it is definitely higher education and have served both on the academic side as well as in technology, where I am today.
I'm Jesse Mosman. I'm the founder of MyVindex. So essentially what we do is distance and flip learning, and we're trying to implement new learning pedagogy to actually help underserved students.
Okay, so as I said, to start off, we're going to show a video, and it's the teaser video for the upcoming literacy documentary that is still in production called The Truth About Reading. If you want to find out more about it, you can find out at thetruthaboutreading.com. And it's about literacy in general, and how do we raise this bar that has been stuck at that about 35% proficiency for decades. So, all right, guys, we'll have you cue it up and go for it. Working on the gremlins for the sound. No? On the sound? Oh.
Euphemism. Euphemism. Unless I really dig deep into this one, I don't have an answer. This seems like elementary school. I feel embarrassed.
All across this country, kids are not being taught how to read, how to read words. This is a misunderstanding that has to be exposed, that the system works for most kids and it's those few that fail. And that's a lie.
Look it up, it's everywhere. You will see over 60% of children are not reading at grade level proficiency.
I was definitely hiding, keeping this secret to myself because I was embarrassed. More than anything, I felt like a fraud.
Nerds get called to the teacher would realize like who would read the best. They would eventually just continue on that person. I would always struggle.
17 years I taught public high school in California. I could not read, write, or spell.
We've got large challenges here in America. No greater challenge than to make sure that every child, not just a few children, every child receives a first-class education.
The No Child Left Behind policy. No Child Left Behind has focused on the standardized test, which started in third grade. So everyone was laser focused on third grade and beyond. And kind of what was happening in K-1-2, they lost track of it. There's a notion, a belief that kids start to read because they mature to the point where they're ready to start reading. Not correct.
The reading words that should be teaching kids phonics or what was termed whole language. The theory was they just need to memorize a whole bunch of words, and that's what good readers do. They say, no, it's all about comprehension. And I say, well, if they can't read the words, how can they comprehend?
It's almost like suggesting that a child who was listening to Mozart all their life, you put them in front sound of a piano, you say invaluable all of a sudden.
The research is unequivocally solid that phonemic awareness is absolutely critical to reach your highest potential reading. And it's something that we use all the time when we're reading, we don't even know it.
It's a lot more than phonics. It's the mechanics of how to read.
My daughter's kindergarten year, I was in the classroom, they saw their teaching instruction. She directed them away from the words, look at the picture, do you think it's a bear or is it a fox? It stopped me in my tracks because it was everything that I had taught myself to do to look like a good reader.
And so you have to ask yourself, if we have this data, if we have this knowledge, why does it come from you? When we know that the outcome of us having that debate is literally the trajectory of someone's life.
And people only move. Just totally terrific part.
This entire issue requires a grassroots movement of parents and educators who are angry and who say enough is enough.
We're not done. We're not done. It's not too late.
Yeah, pretty powerful, huh? I can't imagine what's going to happen. It's 90 minutes long. There's been, taping is just about finishing up, and then it's going to premiere in September. So we're very excited and looking forward to the movement that's going to make. So Lauren, I think with you having taught 21 years and in 7 different states, can you address and talk about the whole No Child Left Behind and what that looked like in the different places that you've taught, and what was beneficial and what hindered instruction?
So I think the first thing to point out is No Child Left Behind is not inherently bad. It was more the way that it was implemented and where the focus became. No Child Left Behind wanted accountability, and it wanted people to know these are the things that children should know, should be able to manipulate knowledge to be able to be successful, which is great. Until you start looking at how that implementation came in. And standardized testing was a huge part of that. And as we know, unless you are a child that can take a test and be successful, you're not going to show that you've even shown any growth, let alone that you can do these skills. What is nice about part of the No Child Left Behind is they took guidelines to help teachers understand and show accountability across the board. I've taught in multiple places, and the biggest thing that I've seen is certain schools teach skills at the beginning of the year, and certain schools teach skills at the end of the year. Well, if you're a child that's not getting those skills in the beginning, and say you happen to move and you go to another school, you're not being presented with any new information. It is all those same skills over and over and over and over again. But nobody is addressing the problem of why the child is not mastering those skills. The standards just became a checkbox. Oh, we've done this, now we can move on to the next thing. But the children mastered the skill enough to show progress on a test, and not actually mastered the skill to maintain it and use it throughout life. I have students in my classroom now that they can spell a word for a week when I give them the spelling test. 2 weeks later, I show them the same exact word and they can't even tell me what the word is, let alone spell it. Because they're not learning the skills and incorporating it into their being, they're just learning it to master that checkbox. Seeing that all across the board, it makes teachers frustrated and it makes them not want to do these standards, which is where I think the implementation part fell apart. If you see your students aren't succeeding and you're trying to fix it and find a way to teach them, but the standard says you have to do it this way, you're already frustrated, they're frustrated, and it just created a huge problem across the board where we're not moving anywhere. We're just in a constant state of frustration.
So is that frustration for the teachers and the students, and who's frustrated?
Everybody. I have students that I've taught for years, and they make the tiniest bit of growth, and it's fantastic. I do cartwheels in my classroom, we celebrate it, but if you look at the standards chart, they're not even on the chart yet. They haven't even made those foundational skills. to be able to get on the chart. So everybody is frustrated because you took the heart and the soul out of teaching.
Yeah, that's kind of sad, I would say.
It is, absolutely.
Lindsay, I am wondering from a college perspective and college entrance, that type of thing, what do you think the effect of No Child Left Behind had on that, or continue? I know that it's changed to it now, SI, I believe now, different law, but what do you see at the college level?
I see at a college level, we're really bringing in students who are from that era. I'm one of them. And the readiness for college is more difficult. And so at Western Governors University, we have a few different ways that we come alongside a student from many walks of life and diversity. And some of those is a readiness assessment just to see if you're capable and ready for online learning. So WGU is fully online. We have 120,000 students and 31,000 that graduated just last year. And we're the largest teachers college school in the nation, completely online. So something's working with our model for competency-based education. The readiness part is difficult. When we looked at what we provide our students along the way is a 360-degree support system. So we have faculty and staff that support a student at the course level. So every single course faculty, if I enroll, I have a mentor that is an expert in the field. And then I also have another mentor that follows me along my entire student journey for the program, which is really, really nice. And if I'm struggling, I have support from evaluation staff if I'm not citing things correctly in my paper. But then I also have the math center and writing centers that are stood up to help, not reading, which is something I think we definitely need to look into. If a student's not ready to join a full-time college experience, we also have WGU Academy, which is $150 a month, support to slowly bring a student back into what full-time would be. And our population is actually these students from diverse, like I mentioned, diverse populations, a lot of female graduates, which is very exciting, and underserved populations. So we're helping to reach that community and fill that gap.
So am I hearing you say that you have a lot that are coming to college that need additional support before they're ready for college? Is that what you're saying?
We found the need for that. So WGU Academy is very new. And so if a student isn't ready for full-time education or is needing some additional skills, that's where WGU Academy fits in to provide that training and support. And all those courses that they take transfer to WGU and they're automatically accepted.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Now,
welcome.
Jesse, you are a child of No Child Left Behind. You came up through the education system at the time, right about the time, I think, when it was implemented. And I know you have some learning differences that made reading instruction and traditional learning more challenging for you, but other things where you had tremendous strengths in. So can you speak to that a little bit and how, if any way, you thought No Child Left Behind might have been beneficial or not to you?
Yeah, so I was actually visually impaired through K-12. I didn't even have assistive technology until like sophomore year in in high school. So I didn't get the tools I needed until probably college for assistive technology like text-to-speech, and it really affected me with depression. I had like a lot of suicidal ideation, stuff like that. And part of my goal with my Vindex is to have tools in place so that students don't have to deal with those type of issues. We're looking, like some people are mentioning, that people are struggling remembering content over time. We've looked into spaced repetition and active recall features to actually accommodate that, which is actually proven by research to actually help people over time with actually active recall. So we're looking at partnering with RemNote to do that, but if we can't do that, we'll end up building it ourselves for that section.
So basically, you created something to help students like you so that school would be easier for you.
Yeah, so I had a very different learning methodology than a lot of students. I had to watch a lot of supplementary video content in college, and one thing that was really frustrating is you couldn't reference the parts that you were struggling with in the actual video, so that's why I put the table of contents in there. And then we were looking at, like, I took a remedial reading class because I was visually impaired, so I didn't score very well in there. And they were talking about SQ3R, which is about surveying putting questions on headings and stuff like that to actually understand the content better with reading comprehension. So we actually have a system to scaffold out the headings so people can easily make guided notes with the questions to actually help people who struggle with reading comprehension.
All right, so I want to ask also, I know that reading was a struggle for you, as you said, through school. Was there anything that happened through school to help you buffer that or, strengthen that weakness, or what did that look like?
So I ended up using text-to-speech software in college. That helped a lot. And I started working a lot harder because I thought I could actually do it once I actually had the real tools. So they actually gave me digital textbooks in college. I used text-to-speech over there. I wrote them down, took notes. I'm not completely blind, but my visual tracking is not the best. So that's how I got through college, and I want to provide tools to help students that may not think they're even applicable for college to get computer science degrees or other degrees that are available for them that they could shine in.
Okay. Now, Lauren, I have a question for you as far as, many kids and mostly adults in that video talking about their struggles with literacy and how it impacted their life and that type of thing. What in your life, both with your students but also in your day-to-day life, do you see where there may be people or there are people that are experiencing the same things that you saw in that teaser video?
I would say it's everywhere I go. I see it at school with my students. I see it with general education students that I work with. I've had children come in there. They can understand things if I tell it to them or if I happen to have a picture representation. But if I ask them to read something, they just can't. Or they'll pick keywords and they'll be like, oh yeah, I understand that. I can do it now. At my school, I coach cheerleading, and the girls have to sign a contract saying that they will maintain good grades, they will follow directions, they will be representation of our school, of themselves, of their families, and I have girls who can't read the contract. And,
what age? What grade?
3rd through 5th grade, so 8, 9, up to maybe 11, 12. And it's very simple wording. I have a computer-based program that I use in my classroom, and I put it in there, and it said the reading level was written at a 2nd grade reading level. So that was really eye-opening to me. I see it a lot working with special needs students. I also help them outside in like group homes and things like that. And I've been told by multiple people, oh, well, we don't need to worry about them. They can't learn to read. There's no hope, there's no guidance to even help them try to learn. It's just, this is what we think, and we run with it, and we set them up for failure.
Wow. Okay, Lindsay, I'm going to ask you the same thing. In your life, in your home life, in your friend life, in your school, work life, where do you see where people that you know or you don't know or you might suspect where literacy struggles or struggles from not being taught have shown up?
I haven't really seen it in the workplace, but at lunch we were talking about my children, and I've seen this with my 1st grader because she memorizes everything, and she's smart and she's witty, and my husband joked about, this is just so great, and we were sitting at a parent-teacher conference, and I was talking to him over lunch and joking about this, but it's a real serious issue we said to the teacher, well, aren't you supposed to teach her to read, not memorize it? And they said, well, yeah, that's the point, you'll get there, but memorizing will help her recognize the words and then read through. And my husband went, but then she's not really learning to read. So it wasn't connecting. So in our own home life, we're seeing this need where she needs to understand the word itself and break it down and read it rather than just memorizing and getting really good at it. Because the same experience happened where 2 weeks later, where is it? She was out sick for 4 days, the longest she's been out, and she failed 2 spelling tests in a row because she didn't have the time in the week to memorize the words. And she's usually 12 out of 13 correct. And so I went, that's low. And then it makes you feel as a parent like, wait, what did I do wrong? And so it's broken there. So that's kind of my own personal experience for that.
Yeah, we all seem to have one. Jesse, what about you? Personal experience with literacy issues? I mean, you can speak to yourself too, but anyone else that you know where you've seen this?
I haven't seen the issue. It's mostly just my personal experience is mostly the reason that I'm building this piece of software. But I know, like you were saying, about 66% are struggling with reading, so definitely an issue that I want to address.
Yeah, it's very hidden. A lot of us don't know. It's all around us, and it's a very good invisible crisis for sure. Lauren, I have a question for you. If you could, and I didn't tell you this one before, but I was just thinking about it. Yes, but it popped in my head, so here you go. If you could write a law about education and teaching and like simplify, we don't want it to be all kinds of crazy, you know how those usually are, but if you could do a very simplified law that would be beneficial to teachers to help be beneficial to their students, whether reading or learning in general, what would that include? Give me maybe 3 to 5 things that your law would include.
Let teachers teach.
Can you elaborate on that?
I sure can. But I say that jokingly, but in all honesty, I am an educator. This is what I chose to do with my life. The majority of my friends are educators. That's what they chose to do. But yet I never feel like I'm in control of what I'm doing on a daily basis. I have people who have never stepped foot in my classroom. They don't know my students. They know nothing about the environment that they come from. They're telling me how to do my job. And when I ask a question, because I need guidance following their ridiculousness, pardon my bluntness, but it is, they can't give me the answer on how to do it. So you're telling me what you want, but you're not telling me how it's supposed to look, but then when I don't do it right, you come in and tell me that's wrong. So in all honesty, the first thing is let teachers teach. Allow us to use the knowledge that we have in knowing our students, knowing what they need to help our students get there. Not everybody learns at the same pace, as I'm sure we all know. Not everybody learns things the same way. I have some kids who need to touch things to learn. I have other kids that need to draw pictures. I have other students who need to hear it in a song, but yet I am not allowed to do those things. It has to be this way, check it off, this is the box, this is how everybody learns, and everybody is successful. And it doesn't work like that. So my law would be let teachers teach, let us know our students and teach the way that we need. And in all honesty, if you're not going to help, stay out.
All right, well, that's pretty simple.
I like simple.
And straightforward, huh? All right, well, we'll see how Lindsay, or the Lauren law.
That is not why I am not a politician.
The Lauren law comes to be. So Lindsay, can you address that from the secondary, from the college perspective, as far as what do you think to move, and I know your school, you pay one price and you can take as many classes as you would like. What do you think, and maybe what ways do you guys maximize this for the students that are coming to you?
Yeah, so what she's mentioning is that at Western Governors, you pay for a 6-month term, and within that term, you can fit as many classes as you want, minimum 3 to 4, but you can accelerate at your own pace. So we have had some students finish in 6 months because they have lifelong been in business and leading as a CEO, so they have most of the competency, hopefully, right, for an MBA, and they're able to finish it in that time frame. And so we've been able to take advantage of the student learning at their own pace, at their own time, in whatever internet available place they want to be, maybe camping, who knows. And then a lot of our learning resources are also available to the students free of charge. And so we ensure that there is some ADA compatibility inside of our resources, and that our content is displayed easily to read. And we have our own ADA department on that. So I'm also thinking of connections over here that we can make. And so it helps the student really move through in a way that they wanted. Now, I came from brick and mortar. Most of my degrees, I loved sitting in the classroom. I was the first row student, and I can pass a test and memorize it really good. So I didn't have a passion to actually attend WGU as a student. My mom encouraged me, and once I did, I loved it, because I could be the procrastinator at 11 o'clock at night and submit the paper and make it, and I passed my term. I was able to complete it in a year. And so with all the resources and all the staff available to us, not only our faculty, but we also have service teams for assessments and different areas of finance that we can reach out to. It really helps the student feel comfort, helps them feel like we have support. And another thing I would add is we have an environmental barriers program that we implemented a few years ago prior to COVID. And what this meant is if there was a natural disaster that happened, we would find the students in that area and contact them and provide additional support. If it meant giving them a term break, if it meant giving financial assistance, you lost your computer, we have that support, even flowers if a loved one passed away. This became really big during COVID because we had so many students impacted and our teachers, college students as well. And so whether tuition was deferred for a time or any of those other assistance were provided, it just helped our teachers move forward and our nurses in such a very difficult time in the last 2 years. And we still had about 31,000 graduates in 2021 alone.
Wow. You know, I think it was Dallas, the dynamic gentleman that was the principal superintendent that was up here, and he had those 10 points that were, I think that you just touched on pretty much all of them as far as what you do. So that makes me ask the question, your college is accredited?
Yes.
So you don't have to follow within all the box of all the rules. I mean, you guys are innovative.
Yes. Yep.
So that is a possibility. So it's basically more within the institution to decide what is allowable and what isn't.
Yeah, and our faculty model is very interesting because those students do submit their papers or objective exams to complete the multiple choice. We're getting feedback somewhere. I don't know who it is. It's getting interesting. It's your fault. It's different faculty called evaluators that then assess the student. And so I can be a faculty member here and helping you through your course, but then there isn't the conflict of interest when I'm grading your paper. It's completely separate. And so as a student, I cannot contact somebody who's evaluating my paper. I speak directly to my course mentor or faculty member. And so it's a little bit bridged there.
Wow.
It's a different model than...
Yeah, lots of innovation, which I appreciate very much. Now, Jesse, I know that you developed, what is it called, invented a software thing in high school. Was this with the help of teachers, or can you tell us a little bit about that as far as the innovation with you in your schooling, or?
Are you talking about my polynomial interpolation algorithm?
Those words I don't understand, yes.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I actually invented a new polynomial interpolation algorithm and presented it at GenSef, and I won awards from Intel, IEEE, and OPPD, as well as the U.S. military. And I actually had like a 2.5 GPA, and I was like an alternate to ISEF. So I think the system's not doing very well if someone can do something like that, and they're not performing well in school. So I'd like to see better software solutions. We have research for textbook reading strategies that yield 95% averages on closed book tests. We have assistive technology for people with learning disabilities like I do, so I don't see why this should continue to be a problem.
So I have one follow-up question to that. Was it through school at all, or your teachers that helped you with that?
No, I just gave up on school and started programming in class. Since I couldn't read the book, I'd literally whip out my laptop and watch YouTube and start building software and learning how to do that so I could do something with my life.
So you did it in school, but not through school?
Yeah, I literally would fail classes that I didn't necessarily have to take. Started building my polynomial interpolation class in chemistry or something because I was failing out of that, and then created a new mathematical algorithm, and then was an alternate to ISEF, so it's kind of how that worked out.
Wow.
I'm seeing talent that I might want to hire, so.
There you go. Not in all the normal places. We're not doing that traditional stuff. Okay, we have a few minutes left, and so if there are any questions, let us know if you have any questions for any of the panelists that we can answer. There's one in the back there. Can we get him a microphone so we can hear him? Can you raise your hand again, sir? Thank you. There you go.
We on? Being an educator myself, I feel your pain, and I know there's a great deal of talent up there, and going through the normal channels of education, maybe you wouldn't be exactly where you are. But bearing this in mind, and we all know that people learn differently, whether it's tactile, visual, audio, whatever it is. But how can we measure whether a program or a system is successful? What type of testing or mechanism for measuring our success can we use?
Or Jesse, I don't know what.
Yeah, so are you saying the No Child Left Behind metrics are insufficient, and what should we be measuring? Is that essentially what you're asking?
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah. How are we going to determine if what we're doing works and the effectiveness of it?
I don't see a problem with the actual assessment. I see a problem with the actual teaching towards the assessment, because like that's probably pretty good as far as the assessment itself. Does anyone disagree with that? That the assessment's actually a problem?
I don't know that I would say it's a problem. I think the focus is when you have a standardized test. One of my coworkers said it perfectly earlier. If we give them a test every year at the end of the year, we have no comparison. You're comparing, say, 5th grade to 4th grade. Well, you're going to learn anyway. So the idea is we need to give them the same test, the beginning and at the end, if you want to use the test. There's other ways to measure growth. Personally, in my room, we use videos. I have students who show videos of what they do at the beginning of the year and what they do at the end, and they show it that way. We have other students who use portfolios, beginning work, ending work. We have other students who use year-round projects. There's a ton of different ways to measure growth. The key is to find the way that works for your child's population or your student's population. I work in a small rural district, and 10 years ago I worked in the island of Hawaii, and there's no way that I could do the same things that I did there that I do here, and vice versa. Your assessments have to match the population that you're working with, otherwise you're going to have biased data and it's going to be useless.
Well, one of the issues I have, if you have a class of 24 to maybe 30 students in there, you're going to have people who learn differently. And that is one of the difficult challenges that we face. And how are we going to measure then? How are we going to know if we're doing what's best for our students?
I think what's different, at least for Western Governors, is that we are online, right? And we are providing in every course either simulations or videos or text. So the student can pick and choose, kind of to what you were saying, the different resources that are going to help them learn. I'm not from a brick and mortar school, so I can't say how that'll work inside of a classroom experience, but providing more opportunity and ways for them to learn, and not holding them to everyone has to learn this way and this way and this way. You can learn this way and you're best this way, so let's all move forward together.
Yeah, since we're employing a lot of hybrid methods right now, I'd like to talk to you after.
Perfect.
Great.
Yeah, and I do think that that's a really good question, as far as we do need to have accountability and an idea of where kids are, and how do we do that in a way that's scalable so that we can, look at all kids, that's also reasonable and worthwhile. So it's a great question. Anybody else? This lady back there, mint green?
So my question is from a higher ed standpoint, I guess. I oversee a teacher prep program in New Mexico. We have about 200 to 300 teachers every year that come through our program. And every teacher that comes through the LEAP program gets the structure of literacy development, multisensory reading strategies, and it doesn't matter if you're the high school science teacher, the PE teacher, elementary teacher, everyone has to take that coursework. So you can imagine some of the pushback we get is, why does the science teacher, the high school science teacher, have to take the science of reading? Why does the PE coach? And so we have our tools of comebacks, but I was just wondering if you could provide me more tools with why it's important for every teacher to receive that instruction on how to help students improve literacy.
Yeah, I'd like to take that one. This would be the question that I would ask. Am I on? They cut us off. I have a minute. Okay. What I would say to that is, if all of your science kids can read, then you get a pass. If they can't, if you do not have 100% proficiency, then it's up to you to help your, that's much better, isn't it? Then it's up to you to help your kids reach that proficiency. But there does seem to be a mindset often in schools, and I work in a lot of schools, that past third grade, it's not our responsibility anymore, and that those 65% of fourth graders that aren't proficient at reading are just going to somehow pick it up by osmosis somewhere, and of course we know that's not going to happen. So I commend you very much that you have those teachers all the way through high school that have been taught the science of reading and how to teach reading until you get to that point where you have third graders coming out where they're 100% proficient, which is not pie in the sky. That's very attainable, and I know many schools that have done it too. So once that happens, then those older teachers then continue to have the kids read and write because they can read and write. But until then, everybody's got to help out. That would be my answer to them. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate you attending.